Hello, hello. In this episode of Coffee with Suraj, we'll be drinking tea. I know, or you can call this episode Tea with Suraj. Yeah, we'll be talking about Terraform CLI and what it can do. Uh, it has lots of things, some nitbits, what are best practices and what not. We'll talk about that. Let's go. Cool. It says there is a get started in Hashkaplan. If you have the time, go do it. This video is more like a TLDR. Uh, one more thing that I want to see is that says that most people only need to run, you know, three commands, two commands. Those commands are init, uh, and then plan, and then apply. So init is similar to git init. It will initialize Terraform in the directory. So when you have nested folder structure, make sure that you are in right directory before you run Terraform init. Init basically creates all the stuff that is required. Then you use plan. Plan which will basically spit out the plan of action. Uh, what changes it needs to do, and apply is when you materialize that plan, turn that plan into infrastructure. So that's similar to how people use git, right? You only use git pull, git push, sometimes git rebase, git branch. Terraform is like that. You just use these three for majority of the time. Sometimes when you are modifying something and you only want to apply changes to a resource, single resource, then you use something called resource targeting by using target flag. It's again very rare, similar to how you use git bisect. Not very often. uh, but yeah, that's Terraform CLI for majority of the time. But I'll go through the CLI and show you what it can do. Basic CLI feature, it's like it has tons of stuff. You don't need that most of the time, but we'll talk about it anyway. You use init, go cd into the directory where your code is in unit. That's it. uh, Get command. So let's say you're using modules. We have not talked about modules. I'll talk about that in next episode, or maybe next to next. But modules are like libraries, that you can use. It's the code that someone else wrote, and you're pulling it in. uh, provide Providers are like plugins, modules are like libraries. Let's treat that for now. Get basically downloads and updates the modules mentioned in your root module, basically. Uh, and then you have your plan. Most of the time you will not be running it. What you usually do is you run Terraform apply, and it plans and shows you that plan, and then it asks you to type yes and no. uh, so apply actually runs plan and then asks for a permission to apply that plan. You can actually save a plan in a file. So you can say Terraform plan and pass an output directory, and, and give it a file, and it will save that plan into a file, and then you can use that plan to apply. So you can basically say Terraform apply and then give it that plan file. uh, but if you don't do that, it'll plan and show you that plan, and then you can say yes and no, and then it'll apply. It's another command, destroy. So let's say you want to destroy everything, like nuke everything from the face of the earth. You can just say Terraform apply destroy or a Terraform destroy. Please don't do that. Like you should not run this unless you know what you're doing. Unless you're absolutely sure that you want to destroy everything. Please don't use destroy command. uh, in most of the time when you are deleting resources, you would just remove that resource from the Terraform file, and then do a tf apply, and then the plan will say that it will remove one resource. That's how you delete single resources. Destroy is when you want to nuke everything. And you like when you want to nuke everything, you would delete everything. Then Terraform says, okay, instead of doing that, I'm giving a handy command. So yeah, authenticating, that's related to Terraform Cloud. We are using open source. We don't care about that. Uh, there is a handy console in Terraform. So let's say we talked about function and expressions in the last video, right? It's a REPL that you can use to call those functions and see what they do. So let's say, like you can see what split does. Like it's just piped it into Terraform console, and it gives you that, like when you're using functions, you can use Terraform console to figure it out. And another handy command is Terraform Fan. uh, you can run this in your CI actually. So in the infrastructure repo, or repo where you keep your Terraform code, run this on your Terraform. So it's a linter, will show you the errors. Put it in the CI, fail the test. So people always format their Terraform code. It's a good practice, you know. It's a linter. What can I say? Another handy thing that you can do, like once you have your infrastructure in Terraform, you can tell it to graph it out for you, and then it will give you a nice looking file in a graphics format, and it will show you what depends on what, and like what is the association. So like in this, you see that AWS provider, uh, and DNS records, load balancer. This is an instance, and then it has three instances, and then there is a Route 53 zone. Uh, so you can print out a visualization of your infrastructure if you want. Output shows you, like output of the stuff that you execute. Like in this case, we talked about output variables, right? Like in this, you are outputting instance IPs. So when you do TF apply, uh, Terraform will show this output on the console. uh, so here you see, like, run Terraform output. So Terraform output is usually shown after apply, but if you just want the output, you can just say Terraform output, and it will show you all this information, uh, if you want. Again, like, show you like it shows you a state and a plan file. Like you can give it a JSON representation. You can get a JSON representation out of it. But yeah, most of the time you don't even need it. This one is really handy. Importing infrastructure, we talked about import in the provider episode, but it basically says Terraform import options and then address ID. So this address ID is usually the resource, you know address. So you should see the provider documentation for import, because that defines, like what to pass these arguments as. You cd into your directory, you declare the resource in your Terraform file, then you run Terraform import to bring that resource into your state file. I will talk about state file in a future episode. Uh, for now, let's skip that. So import is how you bring infrastructure that you already have into Terraform. Manipulating state, again, you don't want to do this unless something is horribly wrong. uh, State is where you have everything, and if you lose state, uh, you lose everything. It's the source of truth for Terraform. That's why we talk about, configuring remote state, and keeping it in AWS, having a lock on it, so two people don't modify the state at the same time. But yeah, you can look at it, download it by using Terraform state command. But I like, modifying state directly is not recommended. You should never do that. So yeah, and then that's pretty much it. It has other stuff like, uh, Terraform ignore. It can take input using environment variables. So you can have stuff like tf var. 1 second. And so let's say something is failing, and you want to debug, like, why your resources are failing. You can set these environment variables to, output debug logs, put a log file, like, then you can set these variable names. So let's say you are running a Terraform TF apply, right? And that takes some input variables. So let's say your input variable name is, let's say, region, for example. So you can export an environment variable called TF var underscore, then your environment, like your input variable, set it. Terraform will read this and assign that input variable correctly. Uh, and yeah, that's pretty much it.